In this video, I'll tell you why you should have a 3D printer pen like this one in your maker toolbox. And spoiler alert, they're good for more than just 3D printed hand drawings. During my time with 3D printing, I always thought that a 3D printer pen is a really interesting idea. However, I've barely seen any videos on the topic. So I wanted to check out for myself, is this just a novelty thing, a weird toy, or is it actually useful? In general, I think there are 5 good reasons to get a 3D printer pen like this one. The first cool use is repairing and fixing imperfections in prints. The 3D printer pen is a really good tool for post-processing. So not actually building up the thing itself, but once you 3D printed something on your printer and you see that something didn't go right, you can then apply filament in the parts where you want to fix something, and that's a really cool way to save a part that might otherwise be broken or just look really bad. One example is if you have a part with a lot of bridging and you're seeing it warp down and having like spaghetti and the finish is just not nice. You can then take your 3D printer pen and add some filament back in, just so you have it look nicer, but also add some strength back in. Of course, the finish is still fairly rough, let's be honest, but if you find doing some more work and sanding it back down, you can actually have a fairly good looking end result. Also, if you have a print where there's a hole or you made a vase and it's not watertight, you can just selectively add a little bit of filament and then fix that problem. In this video, I sometimes use a different color filament just to show you better what I'm actually doing with the 3D printer pen. But of course, normally you would just take the same color filament so it blends in really nicely and easily. One quick little interruption. If you like this video, please give it a like and also subscribe to the channel. It would mean the world to me, but let's get back to the content. The second really useful scenario is fusing 3D prints together. Sometimes when you have a part that's just too big for your build plate, you have to cut it in half and then in the end put it back together. Of course, you can use stuff like connectors, but it won't have the same strength as filament. And this is where this comes in really nicely. You can just on the inside of your part add extra filament and really fuse the parts together with full-on plastic. This is surprisingly sturdy, so this is a really nice use if you're making bigger, more complex models and just want to fuse them together like nothing ever happened. Another option in terms of fusing things together is also if you have a print and it breaks. Like this, you can just reattach it quickly, and at least for prototyping or for a little bit, this might still last you. And I think it's really nice to quickly fix something and get it back to working. This is where this can be really nice. And that leads me directly to the third option, which is rapid prototyping. For example, if you print something and then print it a little too thin and it breaks off in your prototyping phase, you can quickly use this to first reattach, but secondly also to reinforce that part and see if that stiffens the part enough to actually be useful. So like this, you don't have to print a whole new prototype just for this little thing, but you can reinforce it and use it for now, and then in the next full iteration, you can solve that problem. But using it like this, I think makes your prototyping really fast and also a lot more effortless while saving you time and filament. The fourth use is using the 3D printer pen to create unique and more natural looking shapes. Pretty much everything that comes out of a 3D printer is always very perfect and very polished. Whereas with a 3D printer pen, things do look a little bit more organic, maybe a little more chaotic, but that can also be a good thing. Also, what I like a lot is you can just start drawing. You don't need to have a CAD program, design something. You can just start doing it, which often makes the process a lot faster. Depending on where you're going and what you're doing, this can be really nice. For example, when you're trying to decorate something, I recently just made a couple of these spider webs just with the 3D printer pen, and it went super fast, quickly, and easily. In addition to that, with a 3D printer pen, you can easily create really organic shapes that fit perfectly around whatever you think you're making. So if you're making stuff like cosplays or just want to whip up a quick costume thingy for your kid, then this can be really helpful. There's a great video where Teaching Tech made a beard looking thing for him really quickly and just out of a 3D printer pen that I think would be really hard to make with a 3D printer. So this can be a tool where it really augments and has different properties than a 3D printer, and I really love that. And a quick little side note is that the 3D printer pen in general, for something like this or also for the next point, it's really good to just use over your little leftovers or filament. If you have those last little grams on a spool, you usually can't use it up because it won't last for a full print, and then you don't really know what to do with it. well, they perfectly go in a 3D printer pen and you can actually still do a lot with it, which is nice because stuff doesn't get thrown out. And lastly, I do have to say that it's really nice for just creativity and stress relief. While doing this, I actually found myself liking the process quite much. You know, it's kind of like drawing or something, which is just relaxing, and that's kind of what this was like. If you have the tool already, this is definitely cool, or of course if you, I don't know, buy it for your kids or something, then this can be a really good use for this, just to kind of make things that you can touch in the end, and it's a really cool creative process. I really felt that over time working with it, I got a lot better, and I figured out ways to how to make things actually work and come together, and how to really make it three-dimensional. And yeah, it was honestly really fun, and it's kind of like maybe like a coloring book or something where you're just making something and yeah, relaxing while doing it. So while for me this wouldn't be the main reason to buy it, if you already have it, it's still nice that you can also do that. And yeah, I don't know, it's a cool thing for an evening if you want to do it as like a date night or something. I can only recommend that if you already have it in your worker's toolkit. One thing that I forgot to mention earlier, if you want to use this as a toy with your kids, then beware, this is still something that melts plastic and gets like 170 degrees hot or something at the tip. You can burn yourself with it, which I managed to do, and it hurts. So yeah, either don't do it with like really young kids or use the appropriate protection so it doesn't get dangerous. So now overall, what are my thoughts on a 3D printer pen after trying it out for a while? I honestly gotta say that it's a really cool tool. It has a lot more really useful things that you can do with it than I thought in the beginning. It's definitely not just a toy, but you can actually use it for making and working with your 3D printer and actually enhancing what you can do with that. All that being said, I have to say it's not a must-have that you definitely need in your toolkit. But if you're serious about it, for around the 70 bucks that mine cost, I think it's a tool worth having for the cases where you need it and where it can really help you. Besides the very clear-cut useful aspects, I think this is also a cool creative tool and also a toy. So if you love drawing a lot, then this might also literally give you a new dimension for drawing, which could be really nice. Or if you have kids, this might be a really cool thing to do with them together. And in case you want to buy one of these, I of course have the link in the description down below. Now, if you like this video and want to watch more, I can definitely recommend this video where I learned how to 3D model. It's so cool how many options you have once you can make your own models and make things that only you need and that like very precisely fit what you want to do. So I can only recommend watching it and also learning some CAD program like Fusion 360. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope I'll see you in the next video.